Hello, everyone. I say as one person has showed up in the chat. Hello, no one's. I'm sure it's a wonderful Monday. There's been no time so far in the week for anything to go wrong. It's just easy, non-stressful week. There are leaves falling. It's an unstressful, easy. Oh yeah, it's democracy's falling apart.
Yeah.
It's that. So I am joined today by someone who I'm sure our mutual audiences have been waiting for this day for so long. My good friend and yours, James Bell, has joined me today. James, thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Oh, well, I am delighted.
And thank you for being a friend. it's you have amused and kept me sane for many a year.
We'll get through this together.
It's America and Canada. Wait, that's not. Damn it. We got to quickly welcome in all the patrons. Hello, Akiko. Hello, Anu. Hello, Peter. Thank you guys for joining on this afternoon of holy shit. This is happening tomorrow. So it's been it's like we've been talking every day for the last week. We've been doing live streams, and as Andrew Seidel, who we had on yesterday, said, these are as much for us as they are for you. It's an hour an hour or so in which we are us who are sitting here talking at you guys are not doom scrolling and not constantly refreshing 538 on our phones, which is
this is the verbal doom scroll. You just sit back and let us talk about all the shit that's freaking you out instead of reading it.
It's nice to have a voice on the other end of the Zoom, so to speak, to make us feel a little better. But like the last few days have been, they've ratcheted up the scariness, I think. Like, we all knew this was going to be some form of after the vote comes in, holy crap, what's going to happen, because Trump has been known to act irrationally once in a while.
Well, like the stuff with the Biden bus almost getting run off the road.
Oh
and
my
God! Saying,
God!
Oh yeah, they're patriots. And
he retweeted it with.
Stuff.
That happened 2 days ago. It didn't really hit the news until the day after it happened. Mm-hmm. And he retweets it with "I love Texas." The Texas Attorney General, and I read this. It was funny when I had Andrew Seidel and he hadn't seen this, but it's like there was a thing from the Texas GOP. Let me just grab this. And this was just the most insane statement. It seemed they've taken the statement down for some crazy reason. I wonder why. Let me see if I can find it though. But it was just this nutty statement saying, you guys should try to get paid by George Soros some other way. Like they first tried to say, Antifa has killed people in other states. There was nothing, like they basically tried to they didn't apologize at all for what happened, despite the fact that some of the one of the trucks had hit a vehicle that was with the caravan, or the Biden caravan. It was just so absurd.
Well, and now the FBI is investigating.
Yeah. And then there was a bridge that was blocked in New York City, and a highway that was blocked in DC, I believe. And instances like this have been happening across the country, and it just.
These are the same people that say that when Black Lives Matter blocks traffic, that we should just shoot them or run them down or something like that.
And BLM is protesting because of police brutality. And when BLM did that, the police responded with brutality. And when Trump supporters did that, the police didn't respond because the police were in the cars with the Trump flags.
Yeah. Well,
allegedly, but it's crazy watching this all shake out, knowing how different it's been when BLM has come out and had largely, studies have come out saying they've been over 90% peaceful protests for the BLM protests. And now we're seeing these protests that don't seem to be for anything. They're just let us block traffic, because we want to let you know that we can block traffic coming up to an election where we have limited.
These people are heavily armed as well, and it's just like, they've got the right skin color, so we're just going to let it slide.
Someone just, Amy Catherine just commented, "Wow, you're right. Your hair is awful." I don't know if that's to you or me.
That was how I got people to come. I said, I haven't had a haircut in 9 months.
It's
So if you want to see what it looks like, log in.
can you give us a good like hair shake for it to like let it? Can you see the glory of it?
Do my Mariah Carey imitation.
Oh, babe, like some wind going. If you guys want to know how bad my hair is, I have I have very thin hair, and in order to make it look like I'm not like a post chemo patient, I use that thickening hair powder, like the stuff that you see in the commercials that someone like sprays their hair on. It's not quite that bad, but like thickening hair. Oh yeah, like the little microfibers that attach onto it.
I'm just glad that I have hair. I mean,
You're
I'm
doing okay.
52,
Yeah.
and father, uncle, every photo I've seen of a male relative was a cue ball by the time they were 40. So I'm like, all right, it may look like shit, but at least it's there. So.
Oh man, it's a quick, just a very quick aside. So I wanted to thank you guys for kind of helping, like other than the fact that talking at this all has been a wonderful therapy to get us through the last month and months of this pandemic. You guys have been supporting me financially, both through PayPal donations and my Patreon. Also, there's going to be a patron post-election recap / group therapy for if society is still standing on Saturday, who the fuck knows. But also, I put my a link to my Amazon wish list below, and I jokingly said, please send me candy, and one of you guys anonymously sent me this giant bag of Hershey's Kisses. I just want to say thank you. I love you so much, whoever did this. You've warmed my heart. So I just wanted, if you're out there watching right now, thank you. I've been so like it's how chocolate means so much to me. You made me so happy. Anyways, back to this. So yeah, Death of Democracy coming up. So you have a master's in history, and you've been writing this really wonderful column on this day in history. Shit went down, and I love this because you write this in this really bombastic style that we've come to love from you when you're writing about fitness and diets, and you're writing this about a large range of topics. Like it's not just one bit of history, one bit of here's this battle here. You're writing about people, and you're writing about different battles that took place. You're writing about a lot of very, you're taking people that wouldn't necessarily be a history reader and making the history so entertaining that they want to read it. And I love that. Can you tell us a bit about how the genesis of this idea, came up?
Well, I mean, my last book was called The Holy Shit Moment, about the life-changing epiphany. And it happened as an epiphany, which I was on a bike ride. It was April 17th. And I was just, the whole COVID shit was starting to get to me. Like it was back in April, we were really freaked out about what's happening, what's going on, how bad is this going to get? And so I was just out on a bike ride, and it popped into my head this idea that I could write this on this day history piece, because I'd been trying to pitch another book with my agent and it wasn't working out. And I was just like, I don't know if I don't think I want to write another self-help book. And this idea popped into my head. So I zipped home and looked up what happened for the following day. Picked out something about Martin Luther King and the Diet of Worms, when the Pope said, you're an outlaw, fuck you. And so wrote something about that and posted it the next day. And it was it was fun, and it was moderately popular. And then I thought, okay, well, let's do that again. And then for the next day, I wrote about Mae West, when she
that one was so good. I remember that column.
Yeah, it was only the second piece was about when Mae West was sent to jail for 10 days for her first ever Broadway play called Sex, that she was sent to jail for corrupting the morals of youth.
I like thinking that Mae West was the original Cardi B. Like if she were around today, she'd be like, wet ass pussy. Oh yeah, I got it.
She'd be all over it.
Unlike Ben Shapiro's wife.
Yeah, no kidding. That was one of the greatest self-owns in history.
We will never get through an episode. We will only stop making fun of Ben Shapiro's inability to wet his wife's P word when we have proof, because he's all about the proof and the evidence. When we have proof that he's given her an orgasm, which will be never.
You know what? I don't need to see that. I'm okay with that.
I think like I've said it before. I think this is what would happen if like one day like his feet are held to the fire in this. He'd be like, I don't. There's no proof that women can have an orgasm. Where's the clitoris? I don't think I've ever seen a clitoris. What about the G spot? I don't think there's really a G spot. Have you ever seen the G spot? Like I think that's how Ben Shapiro would argue away female orgasm.
Yeah,
please tip your waitresses.
There were so many good laughs to be had with that whole thing.
Oh man,
but yeah, back to the Mae West thing.
Please.
That one, the Mae West one really blew up. Like that one was super popular, and I was in that moment. I said, I am going to do a full year of these and make it into a book. And I talked to my agent about it, and he said,
I'm really excited about this one.
This is, my agent was thrilled. He thought it was a great pivot for me, because the thing is that writing about history was what turned me into a writer in the first place. Back when I did my bachelor's and master's degree, and the whole fitness thing was kind of like, I got an MBA as well, and I worked in the business field, and it's like, I don't really want to do this anymore. I want to be a writer. Well, I could be a fitness writer, I guess. So it was just sort of looking at opportunities of genres, and now it's like, okay, I've built this big platform, and I just started doing it. And what's interesting is that in the first month of writing this column, there was 1 million views. And then by month 6, it was 2.5 million. Hi, Psydog.
It's somebody in the comments. Julian asked for Psydog to relieve their anxiety, and election-induced anxiety. And look, Science Dog is here to help protect and serve. You guys are helping keep him vaccinated and whatnot. So he's here to thank you and to help relieve your stress and to polish my nose. Right? Here's the thing. He's as stupid as he is cute. And he's really fucking cute. So like, look, I have never thrown a treat for him that he's caught in his mouth. Like, I'll throw a treat and it lands next to him, and he kind of looks at me like,
are you sure his eyesight's okay?
Like, his eyesight, instead of fetch, he plays find. Like, he's like, throw a thing. He goes, finds it, and looks at me like, Mom, I found it. Come here and play with me with this over here. And I'll go and I'll pick it up, and we'll tug of war for a minute. I throw it. Repeats. Like, this is why I love the dog park, because he'll go, like, he won't chase a ball at the dog park. He chases other dogs who are chasing balls, and that way he socializes and he gets some exercise. I really want, like, when one day, like, because we live in a big house with a bunch of other people, I want one of the other housemates to get a dog, and that way, because my husband's like, we cannot get another dog. I'm like, because we have 4 pets, and we have basically 1 floor of this giant Victorian, but we don't have a yard to ourselves. And he's like, we can't be the ones that bring another dog into this house. I'm like, so if another housemate is like, we get a dog, that's the only way I get my dog a playmate in the house before we one day have our own place with a yard. But man, like, but he loves other dogs. I really want him to have a little buddy friend. Anyways, back to the column in history before Buddy was just so cute.
Well,
look, dogs
getting interrupted by a dog is something that I never mind. So.
It's a dog. It's fine.
So it was just the column really took off. It was interesting that I built this platform based around fitness and diet and self-help kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden I just like, on one day I said, fuck that, not doing that anymore. I'm writing history now. And I really have not looked back. It's like, no, that part of my life is over.
You know what? It's something that I've learned, because you and I have we have these unique voices that we write in a way that people come for our writing styles as much as they do for the type of things that we write about. And I think the fact, like, being able to make that switch means that we make the subjects that can be dry subjects very interesting and entertaining and funny, and people will come as long as we're still using that. They're coming for the voice just as much as they're coming for the subject. So as long as you can still take that.
The one thing that carried over was the social justice aspect of it, because I do a very liberal view of history, and I've been, including that in my writing for years anyway. But the column this month, it's looking like it's probably going to break 3 million views.
Nice.
And so I've been really happy about that. But tomorrow's piece is an interesting one. When I decided, okay, well, what am I going to write about for election day? And it was just such a cool circumstance that tomorrow's is about the creation of the term the silent majority. I was going to ask you about that, because like you hear it thrown around a lot, and I feel like the term the silent majority is a bullshit term that just gets thrown around by people who want to pretend that they're really loud group of assholes are the majority, and they're not. Tell us a little bit about this. Well, if you can give us a preview. Term, So it's probably appropriate that it was Nixon who coined it.
Well, I'm shocked that that me of all people has a bullshit detector that's working. Carry on, sir.
So yeah, it was. Although in those circumstances, considering that he was reelected in a landslide, I'm not sure how bullshit it was at the time. But what he was talking about, it was November 3rd, 1968, or no, sorry, 1969.
Nice.
When
Sorry.
he was talking about his actions that he was taking in Vietnam, and there was a lot of very vocal opposition to the war in Vietnam at the time, of course. And he referred to how he had the support of the silent majority, which he referred to as, that all these people freaking out about the war are the vocal minority, and really the silent majority is behind me. And it's typical divide and conquer type of bullshit, saying that, all you people that are complaining, fuck you, you don't represent most of America. Most of America is really behind me. And then it's been used by right-wing politicians over and over again to silence any type of dissent, to say that, the people that most people support me. Most people think my policies are awesome. And it's just these vocal nut jobs that won't shut up, that don't really represent the majority of the views. And so that's where it comes from, that it's that divide and conquer type of mentality. And then Trump actually used that term in some of his rallies prior to the 2016 election. And then it caught on. So he was using it in his rally, saying that, the silent majority is behind Trump. And then they started carrying signs at his rallies saying, the silent majority is with Trump at his rallies. And he won the election with negative 3 million votes. So
it doesn't seem like the term doesn't seem to apply, because number one, they are not silent, and number two, they're not the majority.
I know.
It's
well, and this time it certainly doesn't, and in most cases it doesn't either. The one thing about Nixon was that in 1969 he said it in reference to the Vietnam War, but then in 1972, like, he did get reelected in a landslide.
Yeah. And so if he just hadn't fucking cheated, like, here's the sad thing though. All the things that Nixon did that got him, or that would have gotten him impeached and eventually probably removed, they're things that are legal now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so if he'd, man, it's this, and it's suspected that if he hadn't, that if he had just stayed the course, if he had just not resigned, he might have been able to stay in. Like, if he just kept fighting the way that Donald Trump did. But then again, we don't know if Republicans
he lost the support of the GOP, and they were telling him, saying, "Dude, you need to resign."
Yeah, I mean,
I think he was feeling like he was done anyway.
That's
but
possible.
In Donald Trump's case, he is facing prosecution. Yeah. So I think that he's thinking that the day he leaves office, he's going to jail. So.
Yeah. And it's curious that like there's one of two ways that the Republican Party around him can go. One is, oh shit, this guy is a criminal, we need to get him out of here as fast as possible, which seemed to be the way that they were treating him when he was first nominated, and it looked like he was going to get it. And it was like, how can we stop this from happening, because this is bad for us. And now that he's been in, and they've been able to kind of use him to get whatever they want, because it's like, all right, here's just our puppet that we can tell him sign whatever.
Well, they got other judges that they wanted, so he served his purpose.
Yeah, it's like, so now that they have him to do whatever they want with them, it's like, well, why should we bother getting rid of him now? So they're just going to keep, like, even with all of the downsides, seeing what's happening to the country, they won't they won't pull it back and deal with the Joe Biden presidency that will be infinitely better for the country long term, but might not give them the judges they want for a few years, might take away a few of their tax cuts. And it just it's like, I feel like I don't know what the equivalent Democrat president would be. I don't know what that would look like, but I hope that I would vote for, if that were to happen, I hope I would vote for a John Huntsman or a Kasich or a Mitt Romney over whatever the equivalent Democrat president is, over someone that says, I don't know if I'll accept the election results, over someone that's doing, over someone that's that is shutting down immigration, over all of these things. Like, I just don't know what there is left that can possibly make someone go, this is a bad person.
Yeah,
when they're not.
It feels like uncharted territory for the modern world. I mean, there's no
the request for PsyCat has been heard.
Crazy ass fucked up examples of psychotic leaders throughout history, but it kind of seems like, okay, in the more Western modern world, that we'd moved beyond that, and then Trump came and showed that, no, we really didn't. So it's still 4 years later baffling that this happened and that it was allowed to happen. So I'm uncertain as to what's going to happen from a macro scale in terms of U.S. politics. I know a lot of various bits of history here and there. I wouldn't say that I'm an expert on American politics, but empires, the United States is an empire. It pretty much always has been. They rise and fall, and I think that we're in the downslide, but it's not going to be the burning of Rome that happened in, what was it, 400 something AD. I want to say 427, but I don't know. I can't remember. And it's going to be more of just a gradual decline. But the thing is that just because an empire in and of itself ceases to exist doesn't mean that land and the people that live in it, and even a lot of the values that they hold, cease to exist. I mean, okay, the Roman Empire fell, but Italy is there. There's people that are living there and living good lives.
The British Empire is no longer the British Empire, but like it's number one, its influence is still very much felt, and England is still obviously there, and a world superpower on some. It still has a lot of clout.
Japan got utterly obliterated in World War II, and it's after the Reconstruction. They seem to be doing. I've been to Japan. It's a nice place. They seem to be doing okay there.
Yeah, so, I think. It's one thing that I think people, when they associate the decline of a country, or a country going into civil war, or a country falling apart, like when they hear these things and they think that somebody is being hyperbolic when they use these terms, all they picture is what they see on the news from another country that's having these types of issues. And of course, all you see are, shells flying, and you see, protests in the street. And they think that that is all that is happening on every street corner in that country. And it's just death. There was this wonderful article on Medium from somebody who, I forget which country it was, but they'd lived through this kind of an uprising in their home country. And they're like, people don't seem to understand. We kind of day to day lived our lives. Like you were still going to work. You were still, fighting with your spouse. You were still going to.
You were talking about.
You were still just
I can't remember what country it was, but it was a good piece.
I want to say it wasn't Syria. Goddamn, it was Lebanon, maybe. Anyways, they were, but they said, you're going about your life and you're hearing more about, neighborhoods that, getting bombed, and there are people and there are street fights every day, and you don't know if the government is going to have a shutdown and not have water to a certain neighborhood, and just things. But there are months on end where things are kind of normal, and then there are months of fighting, and eventually you don't know if the government control is going to change. But like, life is going on day to day while the fascism is taking over. And it's hard to know when, like, where is the line between it being fascism and not fascism? And it's hard to feel it when you're just going to work every day.
And the thing is, what has been happening in the United States, and what will absolutely continue to happen if Trump is reelected, or if he's reelected, is going to be, oppression of the most marginalized people, the LGBTQ plus community,
people of color,
immigrants, babies in cages, the poor, people with pre-existing medical conditions, all of that kind of stuff. It's only going to get worse for them, which is terrible. I mean, we should all be devastated about it. But the country as a whole is still going to more or less going to continue to function, and most people are going to continue to function. Psychologically, I think a lot of us are really freaking fed up about everything that's going on, and anybody with an ounce of empathy towards someone who is suffering under this government is, going to continue to just be frustrated to see people that they care about suffering due to that. But in terms of an all-out kind of civil war, I wrote a post a while ago. It was sort of a bonus history post on my Facebook page where I said that I really see it as incredibly unlikely. And the reason why is, so my master's degree in history focused on rebellion and revolution and what causes people to violently rebel against their government. Mm. And what it is unimaginable levels of desperation where the government is literally murdering your people and your children are starving to death, and you're seeing that there is absolutely no alternative. And most of the Trumpanzees are well-fed, sheltered, driving their Dodge Ram trucks and drinking Bud Light and watching NASCAR and fat and happy. And they are not anywhere near any type of level of desperation to get them into circumstances that would lead to mass cohesive groups rebelling against the government because Joe Biden won the election or something like that. That being said, there's a lot of freaking well-armed nutcases out there that we could see the more isolated acts of, terrorism, right-wing terrorism, where, they may bomb churches or, go on shooting sprees and stuff like that. There may be some small group action because there are some very violent white supremacist groups in the United States that, you might see 20 of them that band together and go on some kind of stupid killing spree or God knows what, or declare, their isolated sovereign state of stupid inbred white people or some shit like that. And but mass scale actual civil war, I just don't think the conditions are there to create it.
It's worrying just knowing how many of these small militias there are across the U.S. and how thoroughly embedded they are with the police. And that's, I'm not sure if, have you looked into that very much or no?
Well, there's a lot of examples of police, white supremacists are drawn toward becoming police officers. It's rampant within police forces across the United States. I wouldn't say that it's a recruiting strategy. I wouldn't go that far, but maybe in some cases it is. But there is absolutely a problem with white supremacy in police forces in the United States.
Yeah, it's going to be like, we don't know what's going to happen in the next few days, but all of these people who have been arming up, for whatever, it seems like this is what they have been arming up for, given, that they've been blocking bridges and highways for the last few days. Like, they're not doing this just for funsies. They're doing this for a dress rehearsal.
Well, and it's intimidation, but the way I see it is that for the majority of them, they are too cowardly to cross a certain line. And right now, they are pushing right to the limit of police are going to say, yeah, okay, we're going to let this slide. But once they actually start pulling those triggers and spraying into crowds and killing people left and right, even a white supremacy infiltrated police department can't ignore that. That's when something needs to be done, and something would be done. So I think that that most of them don't want to die. Most of them don't, are too cowardly to go out and fight and die for their country. They don't want to go to prison for the rest of their lives. So they'll go up and they'll do everything that they can that they think they can get away with, which is, drive their coal rolling trucks and with their half a dozen Trump flags and carrying their AR-15s and intimidating people by showing their boomsticks, their penis enlarging boomsticks and stuff like that. But actually going to the point where they start committing mass murder, that's that's going to be rare. It's going to happen.
You have such a
sure.
rosier view of these people than I do. Like, I've seen so many weeks of fighting in the streets and of these, like, of the Kyle Rittenhouses being applauded by American conservative commentators that I don't have any faith in these people that they're not like, it's the, like,
isolated. You know, there wasn't 50 Kyle Rittenhouses all together.
There were 50 Kyle Rittenhouses in those trucks around the Biden van that were all like, "Yeah, we're going to be able to run this guy off the road." Like, they were,
but they weren't. Like I said, they weren't pulling the trigger. They didn't.
How many Kyle Rittenhouses wanted to kidnap and threaten to kill the governor of Michigan?
Yeah, that was fucked up for sure.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: we keep on finding more Kyle Rittenhouses all around the country doing this. It's not an isolated thing. It's that there are.
Compare that to the mass death of the Civil War between 1861 and 1865, and it's not really that comparable. I'm not saying it's not scary. It's just the scale is not going to be massive. I don't think.
The U.S. I'm just curious how many militias there are in the U.S. There are 276 as of 2015 militias in the U.S. So I'm going to guess there are more at this point. How many members of militias in the U.S.? How many people in militias in the U.S.? And this is just, I'm just curious because I want to know how many. About 100,000 people in private militias in the U.S. And guess how many of those are more than likely right wing?
Yeah, they're like. But the thing is, like, a lot of them are cosplaying, and you know, even if I just don't see mass uprising, like a massive popular rebellion. I don't see happening, but I do see violence for sure. I'm not saying there's not going to be violence. I'm not saying that it's not going to be terrible.
And here's a question:
it's not going to be a full-on rebellion.
Where's the line? Like, is it when the president starts saying go and do this that it's an uprising? Like, is it when they start working with the police that it's an uprising? And I'm not asking this to be like, I can be a contrarian asshole, but that's not what I'm trying to be right now. I'm trying to figure out where the line is between some violence and an organized uprising. Like, it's like I said, not trying to be contentious. I'm trying to figure out.
There's no quantitative measurement where we say, okay, well, you know, you tipped over from this number to this number, so all of a sudden it's a full-on rebellion.
Well, there was a really good book called On Tyranny from Timothy Snyder that I'm sure you either heard of or came across in the last couple of years.
But I haven't read it.
It's a really short read on audiobook. It's like less than 2 hours. Highly recommend. And one of the things he said was, when you see the armed militias in the street working with the government, working with the police, it's over. And that's the thing, is the armed militias are working with the police now. And that's one of the more terrifying aspects of this, is that they're on the same side. Like, once upon a time, the argument was, and I don't know how steeped you are in the insanity of the U.S., but one of the arguments for the Second Amendment has long been from certain libertarian contingents that we need these armed militias. We need to have the right to bear arms and form a free militia, so that if the government gets uppity, we have these guns so we can take on these tanks and F-35s, because my handgun can totally stop a tank. It's just,
they didn't do anything when the government started getting uppity, doing the things that they said they were always afraid of, because it was targeted against people they didn't like, the Black Lives Matters protesters.
So now, instead of taking on the government, they're like, somebody needs to protect the police. I'm like, somebody needs to protect the people with tanks? They have tanks. You have a civilian what are you doing? They have body armor. They don't need you, fucking Cletus. What are you doing?
The thing is, there's a couple of different scenarios that we could see. So hypothetically, say the election tomorrow is a blowout, and God, I hope it is in favor of Biden, where it's not just Biden.
Popular vote, he's up by 8.5.
But you know, they take back the Senate, and just an utter destruction of the GOP would be amazing. There will be some very pissed off Trumpers that, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Trump's a lunatic. If he tells them that, you know, this is, it was fake news, they stole the election, rise up. Some will.
Yeah.
But I think most are too cowardly But then again, okay, so I'm saying that this is a hypothesis that I have. That being said, there can be these tipping point watershed moments where if a few do it and then a few more do it, it could snowball. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think most of them are too cowardly and too well fed to really reach that level of desperation to turn into a guerrilla rebel fighter. That because most rebellions will last for years, and I just don't think these people have the tenacity to be willing to leave their comfortable homes and do that for an extended period of time.
I don't think that they understand that rebellions last for years. I think that I think that they remember George Bush and the mission accomplished banner after like 5 minutes in Iraq, and they're like, that's how like we just need to like boom boom and it's over, right? Like it's kind of like how the pandemic is done now, right?
Yeah, they think that okay, we're just going to go and shoot some libtards over a couple of days, and then Trump gets to stay president. There's another potential scenario,
and that's part of the reason why I'm worried is that there's going to, even if it's not a quote civil war that lasts for years and years, I think in the next few days if it is close, if Trump throws any amount of doubt on what's happening, which he will, I think there's going to be violence in the streets, and that's scary enough to be worried.
Yeah, and I think that's a legitimate concern. Another potential concern is if Trump loses, but uses some type of fuckery to declare victory, and the Supreme Court hands it to him, and he's basically gets to stay president despite the fact that he actually lost and shouldn't be president. There could be anti-Trump rebellion. Like a lot of people are really fucking fed up after the last 4 years. That there could be some small scale or even moderate scale violence of people that are just saying, no, fuck this. He's not the legitimate president.
Yeah. If it looks like
it really could go either way.
If it looks like he has stolen the election, yes. I don't mean he eked out an electoral victory like he did last time by 70,000 votes in 3 states. It'll be annoying. It'll suck. It'll make us go, we need to destroy the Electoral College with a fucking nuclear bomb if we can. But like, I'll accept if he somehow does it legally, and he got the votes. And he got in via the Electoral College, and he loses the popular vote by a zillion points. But I'll accept it. But if he steals the thing,
if he steals it, then
then there will be rioting in the streets. There will be it's going to get extraordinarily ugly. And I think that like one of the things he's said, like he's tried to have people argue that if after Trump is in the lead and voting continues after and continuing to count the vote happens afterwards, then it will be changing the results of the election. It's like no. If you count,
that's not how it works, dumbass.
That's like saying you've counted one vote and that one vote is for Trump, so Trump is winning. So the next vote, if the next 2 votes are for Biden, you've overturned the will of the people.
Like, have you ever watched a football game where they were down at the half and they came back and won?
That's just the way the game works is you have to play the whole game, and the whole game is counting all the did you also, I don't know how closely you've read about or heard about this. Did you hear about what happened in Texas with the 100,000 votes they were trying to throw out?
Yeah, was that the drive-through one?
Yeah. So there was a drive-through voting center, and like a lot of people who were disabled, a lot of people who were, this was presented as a perfectly legal way and a safe way to cast your ballot. And then afterwards they're like, nah, we're just going to try to throw this out. And luckily that was turned down. But of course they're probably going to try to take it to the U.S. Supreme Court, where Amy Coney Barrett and the 6 mixed Koreans are there, so we don't know what's going to happen with that. But they tried to throw out 100,000 perfectly legally cast ballots. Like, what if somebody tried to sue to get rid of, like, because I cast my ballot via it was a It was an absentee ballot or mail-in ballot, because California, I don't know if there's any, I don't think there's a distinction, but I dropped it in a drop box. What if they suddenly are like, we've decided drop boxes are not mail, so they have not been legally cast. We're going to get rid of all of the ones via drop box. Like, they could do a bunch of this type of stuff to really just try to chip away at votes that they think were not for them. And because they control so much of the judiciary, they could really screw with the election results more than they already have by just trying to disenfranchise voters.
Well, and I think that there will be the efforts to make that happen. I mean, once Hitler's party got into power, the first thing that they did was say, okay, well, how do we consolidate our power so we never lose it again?
Yeah.
And this is shades of that same type of stuff, where fortunately the United States is a more advanced democracy than Germany in the 1930s was, where there are at least some checks and balances to prevent that. But really, I think the only hope that there's going to be any type of hope for the United States is a blowout, and not a blowout for the president. But I mean, the best case scenario for tomorrow is that Biden wins very handily and early, where it's, you know, by the time we go to bed, that it's been overwhelmingly decided. And that not only that, but they take back the Senate as well, because that's better for the future of the country. Because then Biden could say, you know what, you guys fucked us, fuck you right back. Add 4 seats to the Supreme Court, because the thing is, if they don't take back the Senate,
not 4 seats, go straight. They need to go straight. Go up to 15, go up to 17 seats, go up to 19. So it's quick.
I don't know, but so it's Congress that makes the decision as to whether or not you can add seats to the Supreme Court. And then it's the Senate that votes to confirm them. And if they don't take back the Senate, you got to know that they wouldn't confirm a single one of them. So they could add seats, but then they would stay unfilled, because the Republican-controlled Senate wouldn't fill any of them. Yeah. So I think that you know, they stole 2 Supreme Court seats. They stole Obama's nomination, and then they did the hypocritical flip-flop and rammed through what's her face, Amy.
Amy Coney fuckface. So quick interruption. Psy Mom has entered the chat. There have been many requests for us to do this again and do a post-election recap / you know, trying to sort through the things. I think people are enjoying this. Please host James Fell again. This is great. This has been the most midstream request for somebody to come back on again that I've seen. So people are enjoying the discourse. That, and maybe it's just that I'm so tired now that I'm not interrupting so much. We've gotten to the point of the week where I finally know how to conduct an interview almost professionally. But,
well, it kind of depends on what happens tomorrow. I mean, geez, if Trump wins, I'm just going to need to crawl into a hole for a week, because I just don't know that, and I don't even fucking live there.
But I mean, what happens in America, like, happens to the rest of the world. Like, even if our individual little laws don't impact you, our commerce affects the rest of you guys. Our what we do with regards to climate change affects everyone else. What we do, everything in the U.S., because we're this giant hippopotamus in the China shop that is the rest of the world. We affect everyone else.
Well, and in Alberta, where I live, we've got our own little Trump wannabe provincial leader, Kenny, and who's been awful and is flushing the province down the toilet. So we're kind of suffering here in Alberta as well. But I mean, a lot of it is through my work. I have developed many wonderful friendships. Myself. And you know, my friends in the United States are not Trump fans. They are people that are suffering under Trump. So I'm feeling their pain. And I've always been a big fan of the United States. I mean,
you're rooting for us.
Yeah, I've studied her history a lot, and I absorb your entertainment, and I think it's a wonderful country full of wonderful people, and it pains me to see the country suffering under the worst fucking president ever.
It's awful. I want to, it's, you were saying about you have friends in the US. I wanted to quickly show a graphic on here that's trending on Twitter. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to show, like, I'm going to take us off here and throw this graphic on
Okay.
really quickly. Hold on a quick second. All right.
I
Don't know if you
saw
don't know if
the
you
graphic
guys.
today.
All right, so I don't know if you guys could see the whole thing. Clearly, my technical capabilities are not great, but it was this little cartoon saying, here's Bob and Sally. Bob votes for Republican. Of course, they made the man vote Republican. Bob votes Republican, Sally votes Democrats, but they're still friends. Be like Bob and Sally. No, you do not have to stay friends with people who vote against your basic human rights and even if they're like, but this guy votes for my taxes to be lower, ignores the fact that he's racist and is against basic human rights. Just no, you don't have to stay friends with these people for many a reason. It's okay to cut these toxic assholes out of your life.
I can't remember her name, but it was a woman with a pretty big social media following on Twitter that shared that today.
Yeah.
And
oh my God.
I
went
replied
for her.
I replied to her saying that, I'm in Canada and we have a very shitty conservative government right now. And you know what? I have friends that voted for that government and still support that government. And I haven't cut them out of my life. I'm still friends with those people because that isn't what's going on in my province, as much as it sucks, isn't anywhere near on the same scale as to what's going on in the United States. And in Alberta, it was more about, okay, we had a pretty left-wing NDP government for 4 years. And then it was a backlash against that. And I mean, it's always been a very conservative province. And it was more about like it was financial stuff and price of oil, and it was more economic reasons. Whereas in the United States, it was, we need to make we suffered by the fact that there was a black man in the White House for 8 years, and Trump hates the same people that we hate. So, there was a lot of racism motivation that went into the election of Trump. So no, it's a different situation. I can be friends with conservatives, whether provincial or national, but I can't be friends with Trump supporters. Full fucking stop. And I've said that from day one, from before he got elected, was that if you are a Trump supporter, you are no fucking friend of mine, and you never will be.
No, it's like these are not. I'm not talking about people who are like, if you were a Romney supporter back in 2012, we just had differences in perhaps how much you wanted to tax certain groups of people. I was annoyed with you, but I didn't cut you out of my life. If you supported McCain, I was like, that Sarah Palin's fucking crazy, but I didn't cut you out of my life. If you supported George Bush, we had issues, but I didn't cut you out of my life. This is different, and I'm not sure why people keep on trying not to see that it's, when I say I'm not sure why, I know exactly why. I don't remember any of those other presidents being like, guys, I need to gas peaceful protesters so I can take a picture of myself in front of a church holding a book that I've never read. These are not normal times.
I really didn't like George W. Bush either, but I didn't think the people that voted for him were horrible or evil, and
they were wrong. They were not evil.
Yeah, so it has really torn the country apart, and it's sad to see. And I'm, even if best case scenario that it's a landslide win for Biden that's undeniable, and they take back the Senate, there's still going to be that. There was a great quote from AOC like a couple of years ago that even if we get rid of them, that it's not going to do anything about the the racism and the dark money that financed him and led him to power in the first place. So there is a problem with a significant portion of the population in the United States that is enthralled to this man and loves him for his cruelty. That I don't. That's not anything that's going to go away anytime soon. And all you can do is take away their governmental power, and hopefully, basically hope that the next generation grows up and wakes up, because these people, I don't think, are ever going to change.
Like the good thing about getting rid of Trump, if he is able to be gotten rid of this election, is that you're getting rid of the head of this cult of personality, and that's gonna be to great effect immediately. But we've now unearthed all these people who probably had all these opinions before, and now feel they now feel empowered to have these opinions very loudly and all over the place in public. And now they're organizing, and that's not going to go away. They're going to find there are leaders within the movement. They're going to eventually either promote Donald Trump Jr. or someone else who's other people who are rising within it to carry this on. Like it's I often have this theory that somebody has in fact invented time travel and gone back to try to kill baby Hitler, or as I like to suggest, don't kill baby Hitler, get him into art school.
Yeah.
Just, don't be too violent. You don't have to kill a baby.
Trump's mother how to give blowjobs or something like that.
Yeah, just Trump could have been
conceived in the first place.
Trump could have been a blowjob. This all could have been avoided. But like I look at this and go, maybe somebody tried going back in time and killing baby Hitler, and then it was all horribly worse, and they figured out Hitler was the best they could do because of the conditions at the time. And I'm like, maybe Trump, as awful as he is, like they're like, maybe someone has tried to come back and undo this, and they're like, all right, getting Trump out after one term was the best we could do, because then we found his horrible people were still there, and like it just kept getting like this. It's maybe getting him out after one term is the best we can do.
And I think that, so another thing that, again, still hoping for the best case scenario of not just a landslide Biden victory, but a blowout where they lose a lot of Senate seats and congressional seats.
It is almost assured that we're going to take back the Senate.
Every politician, regardless of their affiliation, craves power. They want to be elected, and they want to be reelected. They want to stay in power, and they're going to do whatever it takes in order to accomplish that goal. So if there is a resounding rejection of Trumpism at the polls that hurts the GOP, where they, lose all three branches of government, then that is going to be a wake-up call for the GOP to say, okay, we need to change our ways. We need to put forth different types of candidates that will allow us to reclaim seats, maybe eventually reclaim the presidency. So if Trump is obliterated, they will hopefully strategically learn the lesson that they can't run another guy like that again. In fact, maybe we need to run someone, or a man or a woman or a person of color or whatever, that isn't a complete fucking nutcase.
Yeah,
and
the
same goes in, and so it can slide the entire political spectrum further toward liberalism, because people just aren't going for that type of bullshit anymore. So that's the big reason to really just pray for the non-atheistic, or the atheistic praying for the blowout that makes the GOP wake up and realize that they're not going to win with those type of candidates anymore. And then that's what I hope for anyway.
I unfortunately think that the Republicans aren't going to learn their lesson after this. And I think that because the way that Trump really won in 2016, there's a lot of things that went into it, but and Bernie Sanders supporters in the comments, don't fucking at me for this. But remember this year early on, we had a bunch of kind of moderate candidates in the Democratic primary. And then we had Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, who are our more progressive candidates. And it seemed like Bernie Sanders was getting the lion's share of the progressive votes, and all of the moderate candidates were splitting them. And that seemed to be what was happening with Trump in 2016, was he was getting all of the crazies, and all of the normal assholes were splitting the votes. And that seemed to be what happened. So it's like, if Trump acolytes if that's what happens again, the next presidency, or the next election, where you have another Trump nut job that people latch on to, and they're like, we have the next coming of Trump, and a bunch of other people are like, I'll be the one to take him down, because they have these huge egos and they can't go an election cycle without running. You could have another situation where the normal Republicans split the vote, and the crazy guy walks away with it. And it's
then hopefully at election time they wouldn't win, though, because they'll remember the horrors of Trump. But
here's the thing: are they going to look back at this and say this was horrible, or are they going to look back and go, we got 3 judges on the Supreme Court, 100 judges in the federal courts, we got our tax cuts, we got everything we wanted out of this guy? Like, I wonder how mainstream Republicans are looking at this now. And it's like, we can look at this objectively and go, this has been terrifying and awful. And I have friends that aren't in politics, or like they're politically minded, politically interested people, but not people who are working in politics, who were anti-Trump at first and have slowly been like, I love everything that's happened this administration, and have turned into Trumpers. And I don't know if they're going to look back at, so I don't know if afterwards they're going to be relieved when this is over, or be like, damn it, he was doing a great job, I want more of this again, because he has such a ardent following. So it's curious to see how this is going to shake out in Republican land afterwards, because we're not in those brains, and we don't want to be either.
All we can do is hope that they're going to wake up and realize that they did get what they wanted out of them. But I also think that for the GOP, Trump has sort of served his purpose, and that now it's going to come at a cost, where they got the judges they wanted, but now it's hopefully going to cost them in this election. And they'll say, okay, now time to regroup and figure out a winning strategy for 2022 and 2024, which a rational person would think, okay, let's not go down that same road again. Because it's conservatism exists for a reason, to prevent that, because not all progressive, far left ideas are great ones. This is an evolutionary thing of people having, more left-wing mindsets versus more right-wing mindsets. That it's not just people just decide, hey, let's be assholes, let's be evil, it's like,
I think when you hammer out ideas from both sides and work together, you can create some really good legislation.
Yeah.
But it's like, they're not working together anymore. They're adversarial at this point.
So fingers crossed that there can get back towards some type of rationality. But there's also, history shows an ebb and flow of more progressive, rational times, and then times when things are just fucked. And right now we're in one of those just fucked times. That being said, historically speaking, these waves can be quite long. They can cover decades or even centuries. But due to the changing nature of society, largely due to technology and increased ability to communicate with one another, these societal changes happen a lot faster. So yeah, we're in a shitty downturn of human decency right now, but it can turn around quickly.
Downturn of human decency. That is a great way to sum up career. Now, I know you only had about an hour, so thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Let's do it again.
People are fucking loving this. Like, y'all came out on a Monday to hang out with us. This is how much they were, your people and my people were like, what? You're hanging out together? And this has been a nice calming day. Look, I made a cheesecake that I put a ton of hours into yesterday, and it it's the best cheesecake I've ever made, and I want to go get even fatter on it now. And it was where, for my audience that I do not know how this could have possibly happened at this point, at this late hour in our history as friends. But for any of my audience that does not know where to find you yet, where can everyone find you? And
so
what would you like to promote?
The best place is my Facebook page, because I'm not blogging very much right now. All of my history posts, which I post every single day, are on facebook.com/bodyforwife. So, because that's the holdover from the old fitness days. So facebook.com/BODYFORWIFE.
Nice. And there's one thing we do as a tradition at the end of the show. It's if you want to tell me no, I understand. But we long ago were trying to figure out if COVID was transmittable via computer, and so we started licking the camera screen to see if it could. Would you like to join me in this? My audience will be sad if
I don't know if I'll touch it, but it's my.
You don't have to actually touch the screen. You can kind of keep a few inches.
So lick the camera. Is that what we're over?
That's what we're doing. On 3, 1, 2, 3, go. Look, we're also starved for attention, or for human touch right now. This is the closest some of my audience members and me, depending on the week, are getting. So, anyways, thank you so much. It has been it's been delightful, and I'll see you on the interwebs. And
good luck tomorrow, America.
Oh, and tomorrow, guys, as you know, I'm going to be streaming starting at 4 p.m. Pacific when the polls start closing on the East Coast, and we're going to be going until either we know there's a winner, or until shit gets crazy, or until I have a headache and just don't want to do it anymore.
4 years ago, I was sober and not making that mistake this time.
I'm going to be on drugs for this. I'm not going to lie. I will definitely be at least on, I will be smoking a joint on screen for most of the night. This is not a time to pretend I'm doing this sober. Okay. Somebody just said big tonsil reveal. Guys, I don't have tonsils. I got them taken out when I was 19. Stop trying to say you found my tonsils. Just don't look for things that aren't. Anyways, I love you all. You guys stay safe. The COVID pandemic is kind of raging out of control in the US right now. If you can stay home, stay the fuck home. If you can't, wear a goddamn mask. I love you all. Stay safe, and we will see you tomorrow. Again, James, thank you so much. And I love you, and I will see you on the interwebs soon.
Take care, Yvette. Bye.
Bye, guys.